People fall in love with the idea of cash flow covering all of their, it's the whole rich dad, poor dad, buy the assets for the cash flow so that you can be financially free and out of the rat race. But if you're trying to live off of your cash flow from your rentals and you don't own them free and clear, you're going to have problems. If you're going to buy rental properties, do it for wealth building. But I'm telling you right now, it's not going to make you rich. I was that 25-year-old that bought houses leverage, lost them in the downturn, had to crawl back out of that situation. Now my team runs the whole show. I work in it 5 hours and I make between 40 and 60 after taxes, Jack, a month in cash flow from that wholesaling business.
So what do you think is the number one difference that makes somebody successful versus somebody that's not succeeding in this business?
Must versus want. If you just want to do a couple deals, you will. It's not going to change your whole life. You'll talk about it.
Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Jack Bosch Show. Today, we're going to talk about wholesaling houses, but also about building businesses that doesn't need you, about the principles of success in real estate, and just about even how to build assets and why just simply buying rental houses is not the answer. And our guest is a very special friend of mine, Brent Daniels. Brent with Wholesaling Inc. Brent, how are you doing today?
I am excited to be here. You are the best. This is going to be a great show.
All right, let's jump right into subject number one here.
Awesome. When you are starting out in real estate, 80% of your effort should be in lead generation, finding good opportunities, whether it be land, whether it be single family houses, townhouses, condos, multifamily, whatever it is that you're going after, you have to find people that will trade price for their property for speed and convenience. And how are you going to do it, right? There's only 3 ways to find opportunities. And really comes down to just having conversations with these property owners. So how do you have these conversations with property owners? Well, you can pay marketing. You can spend money in marketing, direct mail, TV, pay-per-click, bandit signs. You could pay for people to call you. You can build up a good network of people that will refer you business, but you have to have a good reputation, or you got to be really proactive and you have to go after it. You have to call up these property owners. You need to go knock on some doors. You need to find the people that own these distressed properties and have a quality conversation with them and make offers. I think this business comes down to 2 things: conversations and offers. The more conversations that you have with property owners and the more offers you make, the more income you're going to make.
That's exactly right. So Which of these methods works best?
Initially starting out, I would highly suggest people be really proactive. And that means either picking up the phone and calling people or knocking on their doors if you're going after
that's also the cheapest way, in a way, to go about it, because a lot of beginning investors are like afraid of all the cost of it. I mean, when we even in the land space, like where the deal ratio to like marketing to deal ratio is like way lower than houses, as you guys know, there's still people are still afraid, like, oh my God, you expect me to spend $30,000 on letters? So yeah, try flipping a house or try getting a house. It costs you way more. But the nice part about houses is you can drive by and see if they're distressed, because they usually look distressed.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, and even with land, I mean, you could pull lists of land that people are behind on their property taxes, right, and you can see what their mailing address is for their tax bill, and then you can skip trace that address of the tax bill goes to, and you could call them up and ask them if they would consider an offer on their land. Right. It's the same thing with properties. It's a little bit easier with properties from a information gathering standpoint, because we have eyes. Most of us have cars, and we can go around and just find properties that need renovation. Write down the address or use an app that costs you $50 a month, and then you just reach out to the property owner and you simply ask them if they would consider an offer on their property. And then from there, when you ask somebody if they would consider an offer on their property and you just call them out of the blue, there's only 6 responses, Jack. Yes, they do want to sell. No, they never want to sell. They're going to be buried in the backyard, whatever. They're going to give it to their family, right, whatever it is. Maybe they want to sell in the future. They've been kind of thinking about it, but not quite yet, right? How much will you give me is a very common response to, would you consider an offer on your property? Yeah, sure. How much will you give me? Right? Who are you and how'd you get my number? That's the 6 responses that you get anytime you ask somebody if they would consider an offer on their property. So if you know how to respond to those 6 responses, you can really get past that like knee-jerk no that people give you, or that knee-jerk, they kind of, when you reach out to somebody for the first time, you've never talked to them, they've got like a force field up.
Yeah.
And because they have this force field up and because they're not reaching out to you, you need some time for them to like be comfortable lowering that and having a conversation about what's going on with their property and do they actually want to sell it.
The best cold call I've ever received, and we don't do cold calls, but the best cold call I ever received was a guy says like, this is a cold call, I'm calling about your property. I just need 2 seconds, just answer to one question. You're interested in selling, yes or no?
Right.
He's like, no. Okay, have a great day. Thank you.
Yeah.
He hung back up. I was like, you know what? That was the most honest, most direct, we both laughed, and he's like, okay, you're good. Hanging up. And because we have rental houses, so we get cold calls on our rental houses all day long.
All the time.
Yeah. So, and we have no idea, no interest in ever selling them, because they're like, they're the ones that actually do pay for a lot of the passive income, because they're free and clear.
Yep.
I bought them in 2009 and 10 and 11 when I could get them for 40 and 50K. They're worth $400,000 to $500,000 now. I do have a line of credit, which that's what I'm using to pay for some other stuff, some of the multifamily things that happen eventually, or bigger expenses or bigger opportunities. But yeah, but I always say no. But I don't blame them for calling me, because they kind of look like they could use renovations, because I haven't probably, as long as there's a tenant in there, I don't fix anything on them.
Right.
I just like, the tenant pays. Once the tenant moves out, and usually our tenants stay for like 8 years, and once they move out, then it's going to cost me $20,000 to get that thing back ready again, because they lived pretty hard on them. But we usually rent them for a couple of $100 below market and so on. But again, we don't sell them, because 14 rentals produce net about $16,000 a month in cash flow for us.
And isn't it great owning them free and clear?
Yeah.
Like, I get so much pushback when I talk about this on my YouTube channel or whatever, about owning rental properties free and clear, and how much like weight is lifted off your shoulders with your properties. And people are like, never pay your rentals off. Make sure that you get as much leverage on it as possible. Real estate is all about leverage. That's the whole point of it. Get it to a point, and then you just, BRRRR strategy out, or just refinance it until you're just moving your money and buying more properties. And then but you have so much headache with that, because if somebody's not paying, or if you're turning that property over, then all of a sudden all of your cash flow is getting eaten up. Yeah. My recommendation for everybody, and I'd love to hear yours, buy in really good school districts, buy twice as much property as you need, get it to 50% equity, sell half of them, and own the other half free and clear.
I like that strategy. I mean, buy twice as much houses that you can afford, keep running with them. And then once they've reached some equity, sell one off and pay the other one off. That's a beautiful strategy for longer term. Now, another thing that I think plays a role, though, is like outlook of the market. Mm-hmm. Like right now, the market is settled a little bit, right?
Sure.
I mean, the market might go down the moment that more inventory comes in. I mean, this morning I read a statement by somebody saying, don't confuse low inventory with low demand, or with high demand.
Mm-hmm. Tom Kroll.
Yes.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're a friend and mentor, I think, right?
Yeah.
Don't confuse low inventory with high demand.
With high demand, yes.
High demand.
Yeah.
The fact that there's not a lot of inventory right now doesn't mean that everyone is falling over finding these houses. It just means that there's actually low demand, right? But there's just also nobody selling their houses because everyone is locked into a 2.5% rate.
Yep.
What do you think about that?
I think I think for the first time in our history, we had 12 years of sub 5% mortgage rates.
But the thing is, if you get into the game 11 years ago, you don't want to sell when you have 50% equity. You want to ride it up a little bit more, right?
Yeah,
perhaps not to the very end, because we don't know what the end is. But whenever you think like, okay, I think the market is kind of like about to cool off, let me sell it then. Then you sell and you pay everything off.
Yeah, you sell when it's up.
Right. But now,
sure.
if you're buying right now, and if you have the ability to buy twice as much house as you can afford, what would your strategy be in this market?
I don't know. I think that if you can get really good deals in good school districts, I think that you buy it if that's your strategy. I honestly think that being the bank is the best strategy instead of, just owning a bunch of rental properties. Because if you really look at how much you're getting, unless you own them free and clear, unless you buy them at the very low, you bought in the greatest buying spree of all time.
We have only one regret. We didn't buy more.
Of course.
Yes.
So if it goes down to a certain, or if you wholesale like I do, and you can find really great opportunities in really good areas and walk into it at like 60, 70%. Fixed up, ready to go and rent. That's fine. But for me, I think that my end goal is to lend hard money, be the bank, get that 12%, get the points, get all that. I would, at the end of the day, I want to build a bank. I don't want to build a portfolio. So if you're asking me personally, I don't know. I really don't know. But if you're going with somebody that's like, you know what, I want to own a lot of rentals, I want to put a property manager in there, I just want a long-term wealth build, I say go only buy properties in appreciation areas of high appreciation or any appreciation. This whole let's go buy $60, $70, $80, $90,000 houses in the middle of Alabama or Memphis or Indianapolis or St. Louis is it will destroy you. I've seen that destroy more real estate investors than anything else. Oh, but the cash flow is amazing. I can buy a triplex in Indianapolis for $100,000. Yeah, but you got to do an eviction every 6 months, and they totally destroy your property. Like,
we bought some of those too.
Oh my gosh. Well, I haven't, but I know like every student I have has this like, oh, hey Brent, what do you think about this opportunity? I'm like, don't. Like that is quicksand. You're going to lose all of your profit. And they, sometimes they think.
I want to qualify what I said. We bought some of them. We sold them off all just before interest rates went up.
Yeah.
But, and we made good money on them. But we did not buy the $60,000 houses. We bought the $120,000 houses for $70,000.
Yep.
Like at the sheriff's sale and things like that. One suburb out, one or two classes above what you just talked about. Mm-hmm. Because of the exact same reason. So we walked in the neighborhood where police officers, nurses, and thing live.
Yes.
People that make $50,000 a year.
Yep.
They can afford to live there. It's a nice neighborhood, and those houses actually, even though we bought them in 14, 15, 16, they still ended up doubling in value.
Sure.
But the ones just two village or two suburbs in a way, or two developments further in the city. You could have bought them for 40 and they're worth 40 today.
Oh yeah.
Right. And and you're having an eviction every 3 months on those things, and it's a nightmare to deal with. So in doubt, quality always wins. Mm-hmm. Right.
Well, and I look at it also like people fall in love with this cash flow, and we were talking about this a little bit before we started the podcast. People fall in love with the idea of cash flow covering all of their, it's the whole rich dad, poor dad, get their cash flow to cover your expenses, to do all these things and buy the assets for the cash flow so that you can be financially free and out of the rat race. But if you're trying to live off of your cash flow from your rentals and you don't own them free and clear, you're going to have problems.
Yeah.
You're going to have problems. It's just, you're going to run into an air conditioner that's going to cost you $8,000, a boiler that's going to cost you $10,000, a pool equipment, roofs, flooding, all sorts of different things. That's actually
the exact reason we sold off that portfolio that we had outside of Cleveland.
Yep.
Because we made money on the appreciation.
Yep.
We made zero money in cash flow on those deals. Because we had 17 houses, free and clear, bought for an average of about $70,000, rented for an average of about $1,000. You would say like 17 houses, that's $17,000. There's every freaking single month. Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, of the $17,000, you got to pay property tax, you got to pay property management, insurance, and things like that. So you're down to like $13,000 a month. Mm-hmm. Every freaking single month, there's either a AC and a heater, because in Cleveland it's cold also. Yep. That's usually those things break together. They're way more expensive than an AC here in Phoenix. or a plumbing leak in the basement, or something like that, $15,000 to $20,000 every freaking month. So the cash will come in and it goes straight back out. The cash will come in, goes straight back out. After about several years of that, and we're just looking at the P&L and saying, like, we're not making any money on these deals. We sold them off when we sold them for an average of about $140,000 a house.
Yep.
So we made money. We got the depreciation. We got all these things with it. We got great returns over an average holding time of 5 years, probably like about 20%, 25% returns per year. Happy with it, but it didn't come from cash flow.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then people go, oh, but we don't even care about the cash flow. It's the depreciation. It's the depreciation. People think, oh, I can write this off for 27 and a half years, right? Or I could do the, what is it? Not advanced depreciation, accelerated appreciation. Yeah. And that's going to be great. You have to pay that back. By the way, people don't know that. You have to pay that back if you sell that too fast.
Unless you do a 1031 exchange.
Of course. You can roll it in, right? Yes. But people think it's like dollar for dollar, Jack. People think, oh, my depreciation's $5,000 on this property. That's $5,000 less in taxes I have to pay. No, it just reduces your tax basis.
Right.
So how much money, how much income are you showing? Are you in the 37% tax bracket? Great. You don't get to depreciate $5,000, you get to depreciate 37% of $5,000.
That's right.
That's what people really need to understand. And so I think that there's just a lot of,
and then when you sell it, you don't do a 1031 exchange, you all paid back. Now, the good news about that is you paid back at capital gains then.
Sure.
So there's a saving. So if you're you're saving 37%, and at the end, when you recapture it, you pay 20 to 25%.
Right.
So there's depending on your tax bracket, a 10 to 17% savings that you do have.
Yeah.
But yeah, you better know that you pay it back, because you got to have that money on the side when IRS comes and wants that money.
Right. And listen, pay unto Caesar. I mean, they're going to get their money. You're going to pay taxes at some point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So people think that it's just a loophole to get out of paying taxes completely. You have to buy a lot of real estate every single year to not pay any income taxes. A lot.
Yeah.
And so be just really, and the reason I'm bringing this up is you're talking about, you had talked about what do you buy now. I think that there's still great opportunities to buy rentals, but I would say buy in great areas, buy in high appreciation areas. And if you're going to buy now, expect to hold it for 20 years.
Right.
Right? Don't buy, like you said, I never am going to sell these properties. That's the mentality. That's the perfect mentality. If you're going to buy rental properties, do it for wealth building. Yeah. But I'm telling you right now, it's not going to make you rich. It's not going to make you rich off the bat. It's not going to replace your job. It's
eventually going to make you rich, but not off the bat.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Over 30 years, you'll be
wealthy.
The best thing in the world. We went college visiting with our 16-year-old daughter last week, and she was a bit shell-shocked, because we talk about money in our family a lot, right? So we talk about she's involved in all kinds of things, in all decisions and so on. And so she goes, and she is top of her class in one of the top schools in Arizona, and then so she has some chances to get into Ivy League schools. So we looked at Ivy League schools on the East Coast, and they're all in. It's all $80,000 a year. And she's like, "Holy cow, Dad, $80,000 a year?" It's like, "Yeah, Sophia, don't worry about it. One rental house pays for your entire college career if we were to sell it."
Right.
But in that case, we don't have to. But even as a normal family, you buy one rental car the day a rental house, not rental car. You buy one rental house or two rental houses the day your babies are born.
Yes.
And you focus on paying those suckers off. By the time they go to college, you sell one and you have enough money to pay them all off. Or in that case, you refinance them.
Yep.
And you got the cash to send your kids to a top college.
Yeah.
Right? That's just, people don't think that way. Right? So eventually the equity and then the cash flow over time will retire you. If you can somehow figure out to just buy one of these houses a year for the next 30 years, you retire a multi-millionaire.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
But it takes years.
It
right?
does, yeah.
And you got to be really patient. You got to have a really good team around you to manage it and to fix it up and to keep them going. And
it's more involved than giving it to Charles Schwab.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
But it also provides much better returns.
Much better returns. But I just think, listen, like if you're looking to be an entrepreneur and you're looking to replace your income with real estate, I think that people should look at what you're doing and what I'm doing, wholesaling and doing land, and that is the best avenues to be able to build an actual business that gives you way more cash flow than a rental portfolio. I mean, my wholesaling business now, and I've been doing it a long time. I started in 2004, and I made every mistake. I was that 25-year-old that bought houses leveraged, lost them in the downturn, had to crawl back out of that situation, missed out on the whole that perfect buying, that window for buying in that 2010 to like 2014, 16 maybe even all the way, and so. I had to fight and claw my way out, and it was finding discounted properties and putting them under contract, and then selling that contract to other people that want to do flips, or they want to add it to their portfolio, or they have a different strategy. That allowed me to build a business that now my team runs the whole show. I work in it 5 hours, and I make between 40 and 60 after taxes, Jack, a month in cash flow from that wholesaling business.
Beautiful.
And so people think, oh, cash flow only comes from like these investments that we make. Well, you can build a business that goes out and finds really great opportunities that gives you the cash flow, and then take that cash flow to then go buy the assets.
Right. So that's what earlier you said one thing that I want to dive into.
Yeah.
What your goal is to build the bank.
Yes.
Why is that? Explain that reasoning to me.
I feel like the bank is the top of the pyramid. I feel like the bank has all the power, right? If somebody doesn't pay the bank gets the properties at a discount anyway. And we have so much opportunity here in the Southwest, and especially here in Maricopa County, to invest in
what Phoenix is in.
You're right. To invest in really good operators that know their numbers with flips. They just need money. And so all of my friends here, and you know a bunch of them, the hard money lenders here in town, they have the best lifestyle. They're on boats and they're running around and they're with their kids, and they're not worried about their portfolios or anything like that. They've got portfolios of notes, and those notes are paying them every month, and they get 12%, and then they raise funds. I mean, some of them have conventional banks that lend to them at 6-7% now. It used to be 3-4%, and they lend it out at 12 to 15%. Mm-hmm. So you get the spread there, but they really make all their money off of the fees of churning that money over and over and over. So they charge $1,000 or a point or 2 points or whatever it is, processing fees. And I just think that I look at the business and I look at who's in the best position and who can really see the trends of what's going on in the market, and I feel like it's the banks.
All right.
What do you think?
No, I absolutely think it's a great way to make active income.
Well, you guys are. You're teaching people how to be the banks
yes,
on all of your land deals. It's the same.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's the reason why we were able to buy like crazy in 2009, 10, 11, 12.
Yep.
Because we had built our cash flow from land to over $70,000 a month. And now it's $70,000 a month coming in addition to cash sales. Mm-hmm. And our business continued through the downturn.
Yep.
And continues to this day, of course. But through that downturn, we just needed to make some adjustments, basically buy lower, sell lower. Our margins were a little bit smaller. But at the same time, the cash sales would pay for all the overhead and all things and provide more cash profits. And the cash flow was just money that's coming in that you could now buy these assets with.
Yep.
So, and I'm asking you about building the business and so on from a point of view that we have always looking at the cash flow as a point of view, like how can I use that cash flow to turn it into more assets?
Yes.
You're looking at it from a point of view as like the cash flow in itself is the business model, or that the lending in itself and the fees and the things is the business model, which is interesting, because as I'm looking again into probably whatever, my 60s, 70s and so on, at some point of time, I'll be like, I don't want to lend money all day long. I don't want to do paperwork on this all day long. I just want to own assets, ideally over time, free and clear. That's why we buy multifamily. Yeah. Right. And for every 3 that we buy, 1 we buy without investors, 2 we buy with investors. So basically, then the 2 with investors, we buy them, reposition them, sell them, make a bunch of money, and then we use that money to buy one directly without investors.
Yep.
Or we buy, with their permission, we buy our investors out of deals. It's a instead of selling them on the open market, we just market them, get bids, and then decide not to sell them, and instead at that same price buy our investors out. So investors end up with the exact same result as if we would have sold them, actually better, because we save some commissions and other things and transaction costs. And then we just hold on to those properties. Because the goal for us is just hold on to these things, ride them off to the sunset, and own them in different markets. And that's our thing. My old age is not, I don't want to be focused on an active lending business, but more of an active or semi-active asset owning business.
I love it.
Does that make sense?
Same plan. I want to build the bank. I don't want to run the bank.
Right.
I don't want to look at the loans. I want to put really smart analytical people. I'm not that. I'm not the guy that's going to, do all of the underwriting and all that on these things. I want to bring in really smart people. And you see the hard money lenders in town. They run this out of their house. They run it out of small little offices.
Right.
There's 3 people to the company, maybe a little bit more for maybe the capital funds and some of these bigger companies, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't want to run the business. I want to do that and then take the cash flow from that and put it into big buildings, just like you. Okay. Exactly just like you.
So at the end of the day, it's still the asset.
I'd still want to buy assets with that asset or another business.
Yeah.
I mean, you have businesses. You understand, how exciting it is to get cash flow from a business. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And something that you have more control over, and something that you can put really good, top tier talent into different roles and really build a team around it. I love that. I think that that's really exciting, and you could do that, and real estate allows you to do that if you can get enough cash flow coming out of it to invest into your own businesses, and then eventually the end game is to own a few big buildings, right? And then it's game over.
Let's jump into that for a second. So as I build businesses, and as we have taught thousands of people how to build a land business, the number one question that I always get, and to be honest, that's an internal question that even in our business keeps popping up, is how do you find those great people into the great position, and essentially how do you build a business that doesn't need you?
My little secret hack, I guess you could say, to this is I love, in real estate, I love hiring former law enforcement.
Okay.
They're fantastic. First, they and a couple different things. One, they know how to communicate really well. I mean, that's the whole job, is speaking with people that don't want to talk to you. Right? That's their whole job.
Yes.
Every time, right? Yeah. And so they're really, really good at that. They're really good at understanding different personality types, different communication styles. So I think that's really good. I love hiring them while they're already hired. I will never hire somebody that doesn't have a job. I want to recruit somebody that has a job, because if you already have a job, you're good at what you do. So you put out these ads and you put out these ways to find people, and people are reaching out because they're in between things, or they downsize or whatever else that they say. I want people that are already hired. I want to recruit them, and I want the people that I want in my real estate business, I can drop them anywhere in the country and they're making friends. You know what I mean? Nobody's a stranger to these people. Mm-hmm. So just the communication style is very, very important. They have to be very versatile with their ability to communicate. And then for
which roles do they hire them?
For acquisitions,
okay,
right? For acquisitions, for the sales side of the business, right? For the operations side, I just want people that are very detail oriented. Somebody that just loves putting things in order. They love keeping track. They love the control of it. They want to control the whole process, and they want to make it their own. And so I think if you hire really great talent, you don't overtrain them. You just you put them into situations where they can win and see how they do. And the other thing is, everybody in my team, so I've got a lead manager who's my chief operating officer, $50,000 base plus commission. my disposition manager, 50 grand base plus commission. My acquisition manager, 70K base plus commission. Okay. And that's different because everybody goes, oh, you can't put salespeople on a base salary. They need to eat what they kill. You're going to blunt their teeth and their nails. They're not going to go out there with as much fury. And it's absolutely incorrect, in my opinion. They're not worried about paying their bills, so they're not stressed out, so they're not trying to force things, and they don't have that kind of like commission breath when they go on appointments.
Plus, you still, at the same time, you still monitor their KPIs.
Of course,
monitor their numbers.
Every day we have daily reports.
Yeah, you can't just say like, well, because their salary now they're just like chilling. Well, if they're chilling, they don't have a job for very long. It. Right. So. Yeah, absolutely. So that makes perfect sense. Now, the key function is here. One of the things, you have daily reports and things like that. Mm-hmm. So the typical entrepreneur I find is, and I'm a little bit generalizing here, is not super detail oriented, is more of a quick start, likes to jump around to 17 ideas a day, wants to implement them all, gets to none of them. That person is about the worst person in the world to, at the same time, put in the business systems and the tracking systems and the daily reports and the KPIs and the processes in order to make a business work without themselves.
Right.
How do you solve that? Are you that unicorn that is different?
No, or absolutely not. You're 100% right. Yeah. No, it's not that. So as you start out, you're in a hustle season, right? Especially if you don't have a huge heavy bank account that you're starting with, and you're starting this as a side hustle, or you're starting from zero. You're going to go into hustle season. You're going to do everything, right? You're going to do, and really 3 parts, right? You've got lead generation, conversion of those leads into some sort of agreement, and then exit strategy in real estate. And so you're doing all 3 of them. You're doing absolutely all 3 of them until you get to the point where you can have somebody come on, like a virtual assistant, come on and do some of the little operations side, right? They're cleaning up your list. They're making sure your leads are organized. They're making sure that your calendar is pretty clear. They're kind of keeping you on task. And then you get to the point where you're overwhelmed with leads that you bring on somebody that's going to help you with the leads. And so that's your junior acquisition manager. They're going to warm up the leads. They're going to be in office, and you're going to be on the streets. You're going to be going on those appointments, because it's really difficult when you're trying to follow up with your leads and do the phone work that you need to do, but also be driving around and going on appointments and meeting with property owners and everything. So there's I always believe one person stays in the office and one person's out in the streets, or multiple. They're like a team, right?
Yeah, of course.
Anyway, and so once you're overflowed with leads, you bring on that junior acquisition to shorten the timelines of the decisions that the property owners are making to sell their property. And you go on the appointments that are ready to sell. And then from there, you start replacing yourself completely from the sales side. And then you bring on a lead manager that keeps all of your marketing going, all of everything functioning. Because then at that point, you're really just selling your deals. And this is from a wholesaling business.
Sure.
But you're working with your cash buyers, you're selling your deals, you're making good profits, and then you replace yourself finally with that role. But that's there's 7 steps to it, really. And it's just making sure that you stay in wearing the hats as long as you can in each role until you can pull yourself out completely. Because what I see a huge error is people go, oh, I hired an acquisition manager. Now I'm done with sales. Oh, I hired a disposition manager. Now I'm done with building my cash buyer database, and I'm done with selling the deals. Or I've been making cold calls and I've been doing really well, but I just hired this VA for $4 an hour to do it. So now I'm going to stop doing it, and then your business goes in the toilet.
Yeah, makes total sense. There's one gap though here that I would like to, not a gap, but just I know you're doing this. You know how to do this, and I want to pull it out of you how you do it, which is, how do you learn and where do you go when you learn these things? Like, how did you learn to give your acquisition manager 50K or 50K or 70K or things? And what do you learn? What is an acceptable number of leads per day? What is a good KPI? Because again, when we teach our students, these are the questions that come to us. Is like, how do I know my team is doing well?
Yeah.
or I'm just thinking they're doing well, and in the industries, they're industry standards. Where can people find those industry standards?
Yeah.
I know you understand. You coach wholesaling. It's probably in your coaching program, right? But to some degree. But so how did you find out what these metrics are to actually hold people to? And where does somebody listening to that go to find that out?
Well, I've been doing it a long time, Jay.
I know.
So this has been trial and error, because when you start out, you think in real estate, it's interesting. And maybe in other industries that have sales, you think that you're like, oh, okay, I can bring on people to do sales and just pay them commission only. This is awesome. I don't have any overhead. They're doing all this work. It's absolutely incredible. And they do okay in the beginning. And then they kind of start teetering out. And then they start looking around and they start going, well, I can do this business. I've created more wholesaling businesses in Phoenix, Arizona than anybody. I'm telling you.
I'm sure.
Just from former acquisition managers and disposition managers and all these other things. And then I realized, okay, how do I get loyalty? How do I get buy-in? And how do I make it not this is you and your role, but this is us and a team? How do we make the team go after the goals? And it all starts with relieving that stress of only eating what you kill and giving a salary. So I played around with it. Is $30K okay as a salary? Well, kind of, but it's a little bit tight, right? Is 40K? Is 50? Okay, 50 is a good spot. Is 70K? And then at some point people become W-2s. And that's a whole nother thing, right? Because before you go 1099 as long as you can, baby. They can deal with their own taxes. They can deal with their own things. They can do all that stuff. But if you want to build a real business and you're making people show up and do certain things, they're going to look at it like they're W-2.
Oh, yeah, we got all the things. I think we're about to introduce a 401k.
Yes. Health insurance, all that.
Like TriNet, they offer life insurance. They offer things. Like it's part of their package that we don't pay extra for.
That's
but
right.
They have all kinds of partners. We offer health insurance from day one. We pay for the full health insurance for our team members.
Awesome.
We give our team members 2 weeks sick time in addition to vacation time, and totally get you that this so all the overhead and even requesting and keeping track of it. It's extra work on the side. Well, I no longer do it now, but back in the days we did. Yeah.
So we look at it and we go, okay, what's our stretch goal for the year? And then we break it down. So you talk about like metrics, how many leads and all these other things. It depends, right? And that's an attorney answer for everything. But it really depends on what marketing channel, what season it's in, what's going on with our cash buyers, what's going on. Do we want to close more? Do we want to flip some of these properties? All that. So we're truly based on income, right? And we break it down. We're looking for 54,000 every week. 54,000. How are we going to find 54,000 every single week? Some weeks you do, you don't, but some weeks you close 4 deals. It's like 200,000. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So we're looking for 54,000 every single week in our business, and then we reverse engineer how many leads do we have to get from different marketing channels to be able to hit that.
Wonderful. So that's a great segue into one of the other pieces I want to talk about. So I always like doing my podcast. I always like to talk about what works today.
Yes. Cold calling and pay-per-click.
Okay.
Yeah. I love pay-per-click. I think all roads lead to pay-per-click. I really do. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. If we're talking about houses, I don't know about land. I mean, you would know that.
Fine.
I mean, land. Certainly, the direct mail worked for us for years. It was awesome. We went through your course. It was the best of all. I mean, you're the gold standard when it comes to understanding that business. And he didn't pay me to say that. This is just it's the truth.
I appreciate that.
It really is.
But no,
I'm glad that you actually bring a personality to like the land business, because everybody else is like super boring. I'm just saying it. I don't,
I'm glad
whatever.
You're calling a German not boring. I appreciate that.
I do. I think that you're exciting. I like talking to you. I like the way that you present it. So anyway, yeah, I think that it's really interesting what we were talking about before. There's a lot of locked, frozen inventory of people that don't want to sell their properties. So the flips. So what is selling? There's still going to be sales. There's still 4 million plus sales this year that are going to happen. It's not 5. It's not 5.5 like the previous years, but there's still going to be a good amount of sales. And who's selling right now? People that have investment properties, people that have second homes, people relocating, right? It's not the upgrade and downgrade type sellers typically, or upgrade sellers right now. People are locking themselves in for a little while. They're writing this out, and then they'll make some decisions. So the most beautiful, most updated properties sell fast still in our market. And so the flippers that we're selling it to are ravenous for our deals. They want them. They're making a killing right now. They're still getting multiple offers on their properties.
Because prices haven't gone down.
No.
Just that
they just haven't exploded up.
They haven't exploded. We have very few properties on the market and less buyers, but the ratio is still such that what's on the market sells well if it's a good product.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So pay-per-click and cold calling.
And cold calling. Yeah. I mean, listen, reaching out to people and just ask them if they would consider an offer.
And
is
reaching
always
out
good.
to whom? Who is your best buyers, best sellers?
Retired
right
landlords.
now? Retired landlords?
Which is a whole other conversation about people that buy rental properties, because we're buying these properties. At least half of the properties we buy are people that have not updated their properties. They've kept tenants in there for a while, or they're vacant. These properties, they're just tired of renting these properties out, and they're just done with them. They don't want to put money into them to bring them up to today's standards. They're just and they know that they're kind of business minded. They're like, just give me the money and I'll give you this. Not emotional, like
And
it's
they
a done
didn't buy
deal.
it last year. They bought it 2016 or something like that. And now they're like 7 years in, sick and tired of it. But their property is still worth twice what it was before. So
Yeah, they
have a
make
lot of
great
equity.
profits. They don't have to do anything to it. They get their money in 2 weeks to 30 days if they need it, and they're done with it. And they wash their hands of it. Inherited properties are really big, right? Because
heirs never
80% of heirs sell in the first 90 days of them owning it, and so they're just like, I don't want this property. So we deal with a lot of heirs. We deal with just vacant, driving for dollars, just driving around, seeing properties that need renovation.
So you have somebody driving for dollars?
We've driven all of Maricopa County, all of Coconino County.
I know, but you have actually somebody that you basically say like, hey, Tuesday's your driving day.
We do it every 2 years.
Every 2 years.
Every 2 years we have somebody driving around, because, if you do it every year, it just didn't move the needle much. We were doing it every year for 4 years, and then the last 4 years
follow up on the people anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So if you find somebody now, you're going to follow up on that person forever, really, until they tell you I sold it or go to hell. But probably even if they say go to hell, you still follow up.
So we've had, we found just referrals from people that we know, retired pastors. We've had my aunt, my disposition manager's dad, just people that want to make some side money. They'll just drive all around. You could do it virtually just through Google Maps. There's different tools that you can use, and just do it from your county. I mean, your high schooler could do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just find ugly houses, click on it, and it adds to your list. So it's not rocket science. There's properties out there. There's people that have personal problems with their properties.
Yeah.
And our job is to find them and solve that problem.
So what do you think is the number one difference that makes somebody successful versus somebody who's not succeeding in this business?
Must versus want.
Okay.
Right? I want to do deals. I want to own property. I want to build a real estate portfolio. I want to get out of the rat race, versus I must not live an average life. I must not work a 9 to 5. I must not be stuck in this situation forever. I must change the financial trajectory of my family. That fire in their belly, that always wins. It's the hunger. It's the hunger to succeed. It's that walnut-sized lump in your brain that's just always like turning on and saying, you can do more today. You can go. You can. There's more value you could provide to the marketplace today, and that's all it is. Our income's equal to the amount of value we provide. So it's just that motor, right? Batteries have to come included. That's it. You know what I mean? If you just want to do a couple deals, you will. It's not going to change your whole life. You'll talk about it. You'll talk about that great deal that you made $20,000 at every family barbecue you go to for the next 25 years. Right. But you're not gonna make a huge shift in what happens with your family. You know what I mean? And so it's those people that it must happen for them. They must teach their children this. Their children must be financially intelligent. You know what I mean? And you can't do that unless you're actually, doing the work.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So now you also run a coaching company,
yes.
Like Wholesaling Inc.
Wholesaling Inc. Yep.
And so you took that over from a friend of you, right?
Yeah.
And obviously created a beautiful company with that. And tell us a little bit about that. How do people come into that? How do they get a hold of you? But also, what's happening in there? How is that? How do you help people there?
Yeah. So the first is find your tribe, right? Find a group of people that are going to support you. Find a community. There was the industrial age, then the information age. Now we're in the social age. And that's so impactful because you don't have to be on an island by yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And so really the community aspect and having cheerleaders that understand what you're doing is critical. If you don't surround yourself with people doing this business, you're not going to do this business.
Right.
It's just a fact. You need to be around people. You got to find people that are a few steps ahead of you. You got to find people that are going to support you on the days that it's tough. So number one is find your tribe. Number two is get proof of concept, right? Do a deal. Mm-hmm. Make income from your efforts. Number three is get consistency to the point where you can fire your boss if you have a boss and go full time into this business. And then you start firing yourself from certain roles. And once you're fired yourself from certain roles, that's when it gets exciting. That's when you're freed up to go buy the assets and not be distracted and not have that crazy entrepreneurial brain. Once you've built this machine up that's going to find you the best deals, then you go and buy assets. And that's when it gets real exciting. And that's what we teach people to do.
Awesome. How do people get a hold of you?
Wholesalinginc.com.
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 There we go.
Yep.
So there we go. Brent Daniels, thank you very much.
Yeah, Jack.
Any last words you have for our audience here?
You're the best. You're the best at this. You've been doing it for so long, and you keep increasing your company's impact with people out there. And I think that's amazing. I think that's amazing. You do not have to coach. That's a fact. You have made it. You have made it. But you have that heart of coaching, and I love that because I have that as well. And I think it's awesome to be successful. It's awesome to have perseverance, but to have fulfillment, that is the best. And I think, you encourage a lot of other people to coach. I encourage a lot of other people to coach, or at least be loud about what they do. And I just want to thank you for what you've done to the industry.
Well, thank you very much. And
awesome.
Thank you for being with us.
You got it.
With that said, that concludes our episode of the Jack Bosch Show. Follow us if you watch us on YouTube. Give us a 5-star review. If you watch it, listen to it on any of the other platforms. With that said, stay tuned for the next show.